What I'm planning to do today is make up a 12 volt flying lead. Purchased some products online. We've got a USB charger, and we'll unbox that just to see what I've got. So we've got a USB socket, which is actually a twin, and an on-off switch, and a voltage meter, and the more conventional cigarette lighter socket. So this is the panel which everything goes into, and it's secured by these fastenings on the back. We do actually have some spade connectors, so we'll get to that in a moment. I think the first thing to do is assemble it. So we've now got everything assembled, and it's quite clearly labelled up. We've got the positive there, the negative there, which is really great. The only one I'm wondering about is the switch. There's just a little, you may not be able to see it, but there's just a little mark there. Maybe that denotes negative. I'm really unsure, but it does actually light up. There is an LED light, I presume, so polarity is a consideration, as if we get it wrong, that will not light up. So it came with 9 of these lovely blue spade connectors, and I have purchased a fuse holder because it is important to put fuses in things, because if you short anything out 12 volts, it's ultimately going to burst into flames. And I've also bought some cable. This cable is actually rated at 16 amp, and I intend to fuse this at 15, so we're playing it safe. You can actually draw, I believe, 15 amps from these 12 volt sockets. I'm going to double check on that though before I do it, but I may intend to use a 12 volt kettle on that socket in the future, so I really need to know. So I've stripped back the outer insulation and made some short lengths of wire, and we'll use some wire cutters to strip the ends. This is actually the crimp tool. I'll just give them a twist. So I've now got a good selection. We've got 3 of each colour, and what I want to do is twist a pair together. And hopefully we're going to get one of these in the blue spade connector. If it doesn't work, we'll have to revise the connector. Yeah, that just goes. Just keep your eye out for stray wires. Want a nice neat job. So I've pushed that in as deep as it goes, and this is a basic crimp tool. We just match it up with a colour. You see there's a blue there, and crimp, not there. You have to crimp in the middle of the body, like so, and that crimps it. I don't really like these, it seems to cut it. I do actually have a better crimp tool, but they are expensive for one-off projects. The colours are a little faded, as it's quite a few years old. This one seems to finish it off a little neater, so that's my tool of preference. I've made up a couple of these. Actually, I had to cut a bit more wire up. And this just daisy chains. So we've got the very end one, with this only being thin. I just like to double it over, and then we can get a spade connector on, like so, and crimp it. I like to keep pushing the wire in. So we'll begin the process of connecting everything up. You can see the positives there, so we'll make that the red. and then we'll do the other one. So I've just checked out how to wire these switches. Basically this is the ground, you can see it's tinned. There is actually a negative symbol in between that connector and that connector, so I'll connect that. And that is the power, so that's going clean to the battery, and this one is the accessory. So this is the accessory, and with hindsight it looks like I've got a surplus wire there, but it matters not. I'll just insulate it and I may use it. So I've ended up with a surplus wire, so we'll just cut that short and drag a bit of insulation over the conductor. There. So we'll proceed to connect the cable. So this is the cable. This is my length of cable, so I'm going to connect. I've actually made a bit of an error. What I should have done is, instead of crimping that cable in there, just crimp this one clean in. So I'm going to solve that with a little joining piece, which you can get. It's totally unnecessary. I could solder it and use heat shrink, but we're working on crimps. Keep pushing the wire in for best results. And that's good. So now we've got the positive to connect. I'm going to double that over as it's single. This is going to the battery via a fuse, which we'll do in a moment. So we'll connect this on. I've now got everything connected up, and what I want to do is make some kind of a temporary lash up for this, because it's basically going to be in our motorhome, and I don't know where to fix it as yet because we haven't spent a single night in it. And the need for this is, at the time our motorhome was produced, probably a 12 volt cigarette lighter socket was deemed sufficient in the driver's cabin. So I'm going to make a cable strain using a couple of zip ties. I've got one round the cable, and I'm going to go around this switch just in case it gets pulled by accident. Hopefully it won't. I've made that nice and tight, and then we'll just get the cable in here. Zip ties function pretty well for this purpose. I've used them in a few areas. I'll just flatten the cable against there. Give it a good pull. That's nice and secure. Can actually give it an extra click. I'm going to use the snips for this, so I'm going to be careful not to snip it off prematurely in the process. I didn't hear it. I think it's happened. Now we'll trim these off nice and neat. I've loosened the switch in the process there, so I'll sort that out. So we've now got a bit of a cable strain. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at maybe putting it in a little box or something like that, just for now. So we don't have anything on the back risking a short, it's just totally concealed. Maybe a bit of tape round, I don't know, I'll work on that. So now we're at the fuse end of the cable. So we'll connect the fuse. First step's just to give this a cut. It's quite a thick cable because they don't really know It's designed to take a good range of fuses. I'm going to take a bit of stripping this, see if this can do it. So I'll proceed to strip the cable back. This is quite thick cable, so one tip I learnt, if you've got a pair of snips, just nibble down the length of it. It can be a bit difficult, but it's doable. And we've been accurate enough not to lose any of the conductive material. I'll just neaten that off. Do the same on the other side. So that's a bit of an issue. This is far too large to fit in a spade connector, so I want to join it here. So what I've done is I've got the soldering iron out, and I'm going to use a little bit of heat shrink which will act as sleeving. I could use a tag block as a way of joining it. So I'll just tin. It's quite a lot of conductor actually. I'm hoping my soldering iron's powerful enough. I'll just tin the wires. Tin the iron first, then tin the wires. So I've managed to solder the wires together, and I'm just going to go over them with a soldering iron and just put a bit of heat shrink on it. I do see videos where people are using a cigarette lighter to do this. I think this is a lot safer. The other alternative is a gun to blow it with. Now we'll focus more on the battery end now. I do actually have a couple of clips for the battery. These are reclaimed from an old battery charger I had, which no longer works unfortunately. So I've now got these cables connected. I've actually used a tag block, and it's just a temporary measure because this is going in a motorhome and I have to get this cable through a very small hole to get to access the leisure battery. I've got absolutely no chance of getting these clips through. But this is just for test purposes. I need something so I can disconnect and reconnect it. So what I'm going to do is check everything is wired okay, and we're going to add the 15 amp fuse in the holder and go outside and test that this panel is functioning correctly. I've actually zip tied it into this lunch box just so it's not risking any shorting while we have it kicking around in the motorhome until I find a permanent place for it. So this is the moment of truth. It's totally unrehearsed. We'll see if it works. Excellent. We've got a voltage of 12.4 volts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just check a few things out with it, use the sockets. Well, I've tested both the USBs out, and we've just got this to test. So I'll just plug the USB adapter in and it lights up great. Well, many thanks for watching, and why not subscribe?